How do organisms reproduce, and what are the consequences? Bio 111L, Laboratory 6, on reproduction. At the end of this laboratory assignment, you should be able to compare and contrast the following sets of ideas: sexual versus asexual reproduction, mitosis versus meiosis, reproductive strategies of plants versus animals. You should also be able to carry out a simulation of the spread of sexually transmitted infection or disease. Reproduction is necessary for the survival of the species. It is imperative that at least some of the individuals of a species reproduce in order for that species to exist in future generations. There are two broad categories of reproductive strategies: sexual reproduction and asexual reproduction. In sexual reproduction, reproduction is done with the aid of a partner. In asexual reproduction, there is no need for a partner. In sexual reproduction, there is an exchange of genetic material. There is no exchange of genetic material in asexual reproduction. In sexual reproduction, there is an increase in genetic variation. In asexual reproduction, there is no increase in genetic variation. In sexual reproduction, the offspring is not identical to the parents. In asexual reproduction, the offspring are clones or are identical to the parent. Let's look at a cost-benefit analysis of sexual versus asexual reproduction. The advantages of sexual reproduction include: there is a high genetic variability. Sexual reproduction facilitates adaptation and speeds up evolution. The advantages of asexual reproduction include that asexual reproduction saves energy. Courtship is not an issue when it comes to asexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction has the greatest increase in fitness for each individual. The disadvantages of sexual reproduction include that there is a high biological energy cost. Courtship is time-consuming and can be resource-consuming as well. Another disadvantage of sexual reproduction is sacrifices of the fitness of one sex to the other. A disadvantage of asexual reproduction is the low genetic variability. Also, there is a decrease in adaptation to the environment. Evolution is slowed down as well with asexual reproduction. Let's take a look at some of these asexual reproductive strategies. Binary fission. Binary fission is an example of asexual reproduction. One single parent cell will replicate its DNA, and then it will split into two to form two daughter cells. The daughter cells are genetic clones of the parent cell. In other words, they are genetically identical to each other and to the parent. Budding is another example of asexual reproduction. In budding, the offspring grows as a result of cellular division occurring in the same spot on the body of an organism. This spot, or this small outgrowth or bud, will continue to grow and then will fall off as a separate genetically identical organism. Organisms that reproduce using budding include hydra, sea anemones, and coral. Vegetative propagation is another form of asexual reproduction. In vegetative propagation, the roots, stems, or leaves of a plant are able to sprout new roots and give rise to a new plant. Next, let's look at sexual reproduction strategies. Sexual reproduction does not have to involve intercourse. For example, there is a type of reproduction called external fertilization. In external fertilization, the eggs and sperm are released near each other in an aqueous environment. If a sperm happens to reach one of the eggs, it may get fertilized. One disadvantage of external fertilization is that the eggs and sperm, or gametes, are vulnerable to predators and the environment. In order to try to compensate for high numbers of sperm and eggs that are lost, species that participate in external fertilization will produce thousands of eggs at a time. They also tend to give little to no care to their offspring. In internal fertilization, the sperm must enter the hostile environment of the female reproductive tract. Then, the sperm must travel upstream a rather long distance for a sperm, through the cervix and the uterus to the fallopian tube. If the sperm encounters an egg ready for fertilization in the fallopian tube when it arrives, the sperm will have a chance to fertilize it. The gametes are the eggs and the sperm in sexual reproduction. All of the cells in our body besides the gametes reproduce using the process of mitosis. Mitosis is a form of cellular division. Mitosis is an asexual process of cellular division that produces two identical daughter cells. Our gametes, which are our eggs or sperm, will form using the process of meiosis. Mitosis produces two daughter cells. This is the type of cell division that is used in all of the cells of your body called somatic cells. These are all the cells in your body that are not eggs or sperm. The offspring produced in mitosis are genetic clones. The daughter cells are called diploid. Mitosis is a form of asexual reproduction. Meiosis is a form of sexual reproduction that produces the sperm or eggs. In meiosis, 4 daughter cells are produced. Each of the 4 daughter cells are genetically unique, and they only carry 1 set of chromosomes instead of 2. For this reason, daughter cells are considered haploid. Far fewer offspring are produced in internal fertilization than external fertilization. The gametes are more protected, but there is a lot of biological energy that goes into the maturation of the egg and the preparation of the uterus in anticipation to receive a fertilized egg. Animals that reproduce using internal fertilization tend to be very good parents and give lots of care to their offspring. There are even organisms that can have both sexes, or change their sex, or even have the choice of reproducing with or without a partner. When reproduction is performed as the result of 2 different sexes coming together, this is called biparentalism. When a sperm has penetrated the egg, a fertilization membrane forms, which prevents other sperm from entering the egg. Pollination is done in plants. Pollen from the male structures is physically transferred from one flower to the other. There are a lot of strategies in order to accomplish this feat. Wind, water, and pollinators are just a few of these ways. Let's take a moment to look further into mitosis. Fern the sperm meets Peg the egg. Vern gives Peg his gift of DNA. The fertilized egg is called a zygote. In about 9 months, this is what we get. But how do we get from here to here? The answer is mitosis. Mitosis has 4 phases. Step 1 is prophase. Step 2, metaphase. Step 3, anaphase, and Step 4, telophase. But first, let me introduce how cells prepare to reproduce. The cell cycle is how it starts. Mitosis is just one of those parts. The cell cycle has two divisions, interphase for growth and mitosis for division. Interphase has subdivisions too. There's gap 1 and S phase, followed up with gap 2. In G1, the cell increases in size. In S phase, DNA is synthesized. In G2, the cell gets bigger again. And now mitosis is set to begin. Mitosis is separated into 4 phases. How creative! First, we have prophase, when the parent cell at the start of mitosis will start to swell. It duplicates proteins and each organelle. The chromosomes form from chromatin as well. Now the cell has a certain prognosis and enters the metaphase stage of mitosis. Here chromosomes line up at the middle. Their centromeres then connect with the spindle. The chromosomes that were lined up at the metaphase plate, the sister chromatids now separate. This part of mitosis is called anaphase, when sister chromatids go their separate ways. The centrosomes pull them to opposite sides. They go their own way to live their own lives. Now in telophase, the membrane reforms. Out of just one cell, now 2 will be born. Chromosomes unwind to form chromatin. Cytokinesis brings us to the end. Do you have time for a quick review? Just a few more slides and then we are through. In mitosis you have prophase and then metaphase like always. And then anaphase and telophase, when 2 cells go their own ways. The exercises you will be performing in lab this week will include exploring how cells form, investigating the reproductive strategies in flowering plants, investigating the reproductive strategies in animals, and investigating the factors affecting the spread of STDs. Thank you for watching.